Good morning and welcome to Peace Out. Yes, I'm a little bit late. I slept in a little bit. There you go. It doesn't happen very often, but it happened today. So I know on Saturdays a lot of my early risers aren't here for the live, and most catch it later anyway. So please forgive me. I'll be back on schedule on bright and early Monday morning. I can promise that. I'm actually getting a lot better sleep, so I have more energy. So look out. Right? Anyway, so I hope you're having a great morning. Hope you had a great week. Here we are. Goodness, the middle of October already. It's nearly November, nearly Thanksgiving, nearly Christmas, nearly a new year, and we're just rocking right along, right? So, and here's what I want to say today. Nothing changed from yesterday to today. Now, some things changed in your life from yesterday to today, and sometimes we don't know what things changed, right? Because most changes come over time. They come slowly over time. We age slowly over time, although sometimes it seems like it's really, really fast, right? All of a sudden I'm 63, like, whoa, wait, I was just 13 yesterday, right? But I don't want to go back to that without all the experiences, right? But things change slowly each day. We get a little older, we get a little wiser. That's the goal anyway, right? We get a little smarter with how we handle things. We relationships come into our lives and go, but it's all a slow, it's kind of a slow process. There's not a button to push to be 68 or a button to push to go back to 35 or 50. I liked 50. Did y'all like 50? I liked 50. Anyway, but there's not a button and things change slowly over time. But when it comes to the kingdom of God, nothing literally changes in the kingdom of God. Now, our understanding of the kingdom of God changes. Hopefully over this 3.5 years of studying about God's peace and how He loves us and how we can pray and how we can ask Him and how we can let it rain and how we have His grace and we have His mercy. He's always with us. Hopefully over these 3.5 years, we've all grown in our trust of Him. We've all grown in our understanding of God. That's a good thing because growth takes time too. And so I just want to say today that nothing changed from yesterday to today in the kingdom of God. Nothing leaked out. And maybe something happened in your life that was maybe traumatic, or maybe something happened in your life that was really good. God's peace is still there. He doesn't go, oh, I see you got this handled. Okay, well, let me just take all this back and you just go on. No, He never takes anything back, whether we go through really hard things or we go through really good things. His peace is right there. He's right there. Right? He doesn't change. He doesn't leave when He thinks we've got it and come back when He thinks we've lost it. Right? Because I'm on the side of mostly losing it most of the time. Right? All these questions in my mind and all these thoughts that go through my mind. I'm like, oh my goodness, and I'm always asking God a lot of questions. And I found something this morning as I was reading. The Pharisees asked Jesus a lot of questions. Now, they weren't looking for answers though. They were trying to trip Him up when it came to the law, when it came to what God said in the Old Testament. They wanted to trip Him up and find something to accuse Him of, which of course they couldn't. But He answered all their questions with truth. And they were asking questions to trip Him up. They were asking questions to find some little hole in what He was saying, find something wrong with His interpretation of the Old Testament laws, and or some little loophole where they could trip Him and trick Him and accuse Him and crucify Him, but ultimately, which they just did for no reason later because they hated Him, because He spoke the truth. But here's the thing, He answered their questions, every single one, until He finally answered the final one, and then they didn't have any more questions. They literally ran out of questions. Well, I can tell you, I'm not asking for dishonest reasons. I got lots of questions and I don't usually run out. But it encourages me to know that He's going to answer my honest questions too. I have a lot of questions sometimes, like, are you really watching right now? Do you really see this right now? Do you really hear me, God? And in my heart I know He does, right? But He's got answers for that. There's scriptures that answer every single question, that reminds us that He does see us. He does hear us. He does walk through time with us, right? And that doesn't mean everything's going to go perfectly. It didn't even go perfectly for Jesus. He was betrayed by Judas. Peter denied Him. The crowds loved him on one day and crucified him on the next. Things didn't go all smooth in his life either. And yet the kingdom of God remained steady, remained consistent, remained strong. Nothing changed in the kingdom of God. He was still the Prince of Peace. Even when he was hanging on the cross, he was the Prince of Peace. As a matter of fact, Pilate said the King of the Jews. He put the truth on the cross, right? He is the king. And they said, you got to take that down. Change it so that it says, he says he's the king of the Jews. And the Pilate said, I wrote what I wrote. And he left it there. And that tells me that he believed in some odd way. He believed, even though he allowed them to crucify him, he believed that Jesus was the king of the Jews. He believed to some degree. And you know what? That's all it takes, is us to believe in him. So when we have all these questions, the questions aren't an indicator that we don't trust him always. All right? The questions aren't an indicator that we don't aren't believing in him. Sometimes our questions come, especially for me, because we do believe in him and we do trust him and we are trusting him for one more day, right? So our questions aren't always bad. And if God answered the questions of the Pharisees, if Jesus answered the questions of the Pharisees, then he's going to answer our questions too, right? It may take us a while to tune our ears and to hear it, but he's going to answer our questions. He's going to give us the peace in the middle of our questions, right? The questions aren't a sin. Unbelief is where we get in trouble. And if we, here's an interesting thing about a question. Gideon asked a question, and it was the same question the children of Israel asked in the wilderness. In the wilderness, they said, where did God go? He just brought us out here and left us to die, right? So, and they said, where is the God of Isaac and Jacob and Abraham, right? And God said, you've hardened your hearts. God knew the what's the right word? God knew where the question was coming from and the reason behind the question. Now, in Judges 6, many years later, the angel comes to Gideon and says, you mighty man of valor. And he asks the same question. He goes, where is God? Where's this God that we're trusting? He's not, if he's with us, why are we suffering all these things? And the angel said, go in this your strength. So the same question that Gideon asked in Judges 6 was actually his strength, that the questions they asked back in Exodus and maybe Deuteronomy and Leviticus and on their trek across the journey, their trek across the wilderness, the same question came from a different place. One came from unbelief and distrust, and the other came from I'm looking for God and I'm just not seeing him. It was from an honest place. God doesn't throw away our questions. He says, especially when we're asking from just out of earnestness, God, where I need to see you in my now. I need to feel you in my here, right? Wherever our here is, I need to know that you're with me. I need to know that you've got me. And God doesn't despise that. No, he answers it. But we have to listen. We have to get in the word. We have to find it. But he will, when we pursue the true answer to that question, he will be there with peace. He will be there with grace. He will be there with strength, like he was for Gideon. The angel said, go in this your strength and defeat Midian. It was his strength. The question was his strength. So sometimes our question is our strength because we're really seriously, honestly, earnestly looking for God in our right now. Right? And if we're really looking for God, not mad at him because he has us in the middle of the wilderness, or not mad at him because he drug us out of slavery, why would you be mad at God for that? They were messed up, right? But Gideon's honest question gets an answer. This is your strength. Looking for God is your strength. Continue. So I encourage you today to keep looking for God in your now. Keep looking for him in your right here, because that's your strength. Knowing that you're going to find him in your right here. Knowing you're looking for him and asking because you know you're going to find him in your right now. Right? So keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking, because what happens? The door is opened, you will find him, and he will answer. Right? So be encouraged today. God's got the answers to your questions, and right in the middle of your questions, he has your peace. It doesn't go away when you ask questions, I promise. Right? If it did, boy, would I be in trouble, because I got lots of questions, right? You guys, peace out. Trust God for one more day, and I'll see you bright and early Monday morning.